Hi, it's Penny here. Welcome to another reading vlog. So if you watched my last reading vlog, you'll understand why my library is such a mess around me. Basically last week I got my new bookshelves delivered. So this week I'm going to try and work out where all the books go, because at the moment they're all stacked all over the place and there's lots of empty shelves and it's a bit of a disaster. So hopefully, I don't know, I'm just going to try and do it slowly. So I don't know whether I'll get it sorted out in this vlog, but maybe, hopefully. I think if it's messy for too long, I'll start getting annoyed with it. So we'll see. As far as reading goes, for physical books, I'm going to be reading Migration by Steph Matuku. So this is a New Zealand author. She tends to write like YA and children's books. This is a YA dystopian, I think, but with some kind of like Maori culture influence. I think it's been getting pretty good reviews so far, and I have loved, I think, pretty much everything I've read by Steph Matuku, so I'm hoping to really love this. I guess once I start it, I'll let you know what I think it's about, because I don't really know yet. Then as well, for audiobooks, I have actually started All You Need Is Kill by, I don't have my phone. I think I'll look it up for my next update. And also, I'm actually already about halfway through it, and I have some ranting to do, but I don't have time for a rant yet, so you'll have to wait till my next update as well. That is the book that the movie Edge of Tomorrow was based on, so it's kind of got time loops, like a military time loop story. I have actually previously read that and given it 4 stars, but my experience so far with it is, I'm not sure if it's a 4-star. Maybe. I'm trying to lean into the time loop bit, which I'm enjoying, so we'll see. If I finish that, which I almost definitely will because it's a fairly short audiobook, I have a couple of options. I don't think I'm going to decide yet. We'll just decide when we get there.
Pick it up from the top, hit restart. So far it's been so hard to live, but lately something in me changed. Let it go, let it be. Don't fight your way back in. Let me go, let me be. It's time that we begin. Welcome to a new life. Dripping in gold, that's nice.
Okay, I know I said that I was just going to take my time with sorting out my bookshelves. However, my brain just, every time I would come into this room, would start trying to solve the problem of like where I was going to put all the different books. So now it's not exactly how I would like it, but it's somewhere towards it. And it's kind of a work in progress, because the actual problem I have, which is not a problem at all, is that I have not enough books. And that's kind of because, like, I bought this many bookshelves knowing this is how many I could fit in the room kind of comfortably, but also knowing I didn't have enough books to fill them. But the plan is, over time, I'll buy more books and I'll, like, grow into this library. So at the moment, some of the shelves kind of don't really have enough books, but I know I'm going to get more, so it's kind of okay. But it also meant I couldn't quite get the layout exactly, like, how I wanted it. I don't know, but I'll work on it slowly over time. I think my brain will let me now. It's like at a point where I can look at my shelves and just see all my books and be happy. So I do also now have time to give you a little rant on All You Need Is Kill. Oh, I also told you I need to check the author's name. I swear I used to know this. Hiroshi Sakura. Why can I not say this? Sakurazaka. Hiroshi Sakurazaka. So it's a pretty short audiobook. It's only like 5 hours long, so I'm halfway through it. The thing that I want to rant about is the way that he is describing women. Now, I'm kind of willing to overlook it to a point, because the main character is like this young man in the military, so he's surrounded by men, but he's young, right? And so of course, you know, the woman he sees around him, he's going to be thinking in a young man kind of way. But do we really need a description of almost every woman's breasts? Do we? I don't think we do. Or I don't need it. It's definitely not needed. Also, then there was a part where he met this other woman and he described her as being 150. I thought he said 152, but then once I started paying attention, I think he said 158. And because it's an audiobook, it was kind of hard to go back and double check it. But anyway, let's say she's 158 centimeters and he said she was 37 kilograms. Now, the expectation he's setting up is that she's like a very slender Japanese woman. So maybe, but 37 kilograms is very light. So my reaction was like, is this a real woman or just some kind of like imaginary dream woman? I mean, it's possible, but it just didn't seem right to me. And it really took me out of the story. And more to the point is, why do we even need to have this woman's exact height and weight? Like, can't we just be told the generic idea about her? Oh, also, like, she's also described as having ample breasts, I'm pretty sure. So that makes the weight even more unlikely. So, like, it isn't that bad. He's not talking to that many women, so it's not like all the time. But there's just been enough of it. And I wasn't expecting it because I didn't remember it from my first read. So there was enough of it that I was like, oh, what is this? And it just took me out of the story. So I'm hoping when I get back into it, I can ignore that. Maybe now that we've introduced all the women characters, we won't need to be doing that anymore. Maybe, hopefully. I will say, I would probably recommend this for fans of Andy Weir. I think the writing style is a little bit similar, a little bit less scientific, but like the same kind of, I don't know, almost the same kind of humor, but not quite. Anyway, it feels like similar writing to me. And I will say, Andy Weir has sometimes a similar, slightly off approach to women, but in a way that's maybe fine. I don't know. Anyway, if it's something you're sensitive to, it might annoy you for both those authors. But we're going to lean into the time loop element when we go back to reading it, I guess. My run tomorrow? I have actually, it's been a while since I updated you, life, you know? So I have also been listening to another audiobook when I've been going running. I think just one run. Hasn't been that long. I've been listening to Horror Stories by Liz Phair. So this is set up, like it says it's a memoir, and it kind of is, but it's more like a bunch of short reminiscences. Some of them are almost like personal essays. The ones that lean more on the essay side of things I am enjoying, like when she's kind of relating her experiences to like the bigger human experience and like having some good ideas, and the whole thing is quite well written. So those ones I'm enjoying. The ones where she kind of is being very specific about her own experiences though, I'm not enjoying so much. And it's hard to say why. I think this is part of why I just in general don't like memoirs though. It's something to do with like if I'm just going to get someone's kind of like everyday struggles, because more to the point, I don't think Liz Phair's life, I don't know how to say it. I don't think that her struggles are particularly like extraordinary. In a lot of ways, she's like a young, privileged, well, in most of her stories, a young, white privileged woman. Her parents are rich, so she has struggles, but they're not anything out of the ordinary. So like I kind of feel like I'd rather just hear my friends talk about these kind of stories, and I feel like they're not the kind of stories that are worthy of being in a book. Maybe it's just that I don't read for those kind of stories. Like, you know, I don't read a lot of contemporary. I read for something that's gonna like give me some new ideas, not just like I had a baby and it was difficult, which was one of the chapters. Another one of the chapters was also about her having an affair, like the affair that she had after she had her first child. And again, all that really does is make me lose respect for her. I guess she's trying to tell her experience of it, but I don't know, it made me think, wow, you're a terrible person, even though I already kind of knew that that's what she'd done based on her music. But I like it better in song form, I think. Maybe I just need to stop reading memoirs of music artists because I'd rather just listen to their songs and imply something about their life from that. I don't know, but anyway, it's fine. Sometimes I'm enjoying it. Other times I'm thinking I shouldn't read memoirs. They're not something I enjoy, and I can't quite say why, because whenever I try to describe it, I think it makes me come off as like a really unempathetic, horrible person. But it's not that. It's just that I'd rather hear somebody talking about their struggles as they go through them. And when it's years later and they're looking back, I'm like, why do you think anyone wants a book about this? See, it always makes me sound mean. Anyway, I'm just going to avoid memoirs, but I'll finish this one off. I'm quite near the end now. And maybe we'll get more of the essay style chapters. Other things. Oh, okay, my camera battery died because I've been talking for too long. But I have also been reading Migration. Mostly today was another reason why I didn't update you until today, because I just haven't been doing that much reading. But I did finally get to this, and once I started getting into it, I'm kind of flying through it. Like, I'm on page 87 now, and I haven't spent that long. Like, I just sat down for like an hour before and blasted through 87 pages. So, what is happening in this? So there was a prologue, and we're getting the perspective of the leaders who have kind of arranged this escape. Then it says, before we get to the main chapters, that we're 3,000 years later, and now it seems like the people in this world view those leaders of the escape as like gods. There was only just I just got to a mention of that, so it's not like a big part of the story yet. I am waiting, actually. I think what's going to happen, maybe I'm wrong, but what I think is going to happen is that these people they escaped from are maybe going to come back. So we're following this young woman who's kind of like a noble type person. They've kind of got this particular social structure where you're lower, mid, or upper Nati. So she's upper, and normally they wouldn't go to military school, but she wanted to, so she's gone. I think she just thought there should be more to life than what her family does, which is more like finance and business and trading. So she's gone to train in this like military school, and in this military school you either have like a talent for intuition or combat, and the people who are like intuitives, which she is one, can kind of like learn to predict the future slightly, and then they like will through this headset telepathically communicate to the combatants and like help them to fight. So they're learning all about those abilities, and kind of we're meeting all the different characters. There is one guy that initially she got off on the wrong foot with, and so they don't really get along, but maybe she has a thing for him. Kind of waiting to see what's going to happen with that. So yeah, she's got friends and enemies. That's kind of where it's probably the most YA. I mean, mostly so far it's been fairly introductory, but I am enjoying the general setup. And she did actually just have a bit of a vision of things going wrong, so hopefully we won't have to wait too long for that to really kick in. Hello, so I just finished listening to the audiobook of All You Need Is Kill, and I'm having memory problems. Like, there was one particular thing I thought I remembered from the previous time I read that, and it never happened. So did I just make that up last time? I think I must have. But also, there was heaps of stuff in the book that I didn't remember. Like, about halfway through, we got Rita, the woman's perspective, which I didn't remember. Like, honestly, did I read this before? I'm sure I read it before, but it doesn't seem right. Anyway, we got her perspective, and that definitely stopped us from having so much of the male gaze, which was good. And I feel like this audiobook was so short, so once we kind of got to that point, it all fell together very quickly. I do think the book has a lot more explanation of like what was really going on with these aliens. I don't know, I kind of want to see, I think that I can, oh, ding dong time. I knew it was coming. 11 o'clock, big ding dong time. Anyway, I'll talk over these ding dongs. I think they're usually fine in the audio, probably better than the one. They actually seem quite loud today. Am I sitting somewhere different? Not really. Anyway, what was I saying? Maybe ding dong time can just give me time to think. Oh yeah, I think that I can get, or I can watch it on a free streaming service, so I'm going to try and do that maybe. I think I've suggested to Jace that we watch it again before, but I think we've already watched it a couple of times, and he's always like, but we've seen that, but maybe I can convince him to watch it again. So I did really like the movie, but I don't think it explains some of the stuff as well. Also, there is actually a funny bit in the book where they're talking about the movies that were made based on Rita and kind of her heroic efforts against these aliens. And looking at like a little figurine made of the movie, the actress that played her in the movie, and how it's like a blonde, beautiful woman. And I kind of wondered if it was more like Emily Blunt than the main character in the book, if you know what I mean. Like, is the movie they're referencing in the book kind of like the movie that got made, even though the book came first? Is this some kind of time loop where the book's referencing the movie, even though the movie hadn't come out yet? Anyway, I did enjoy the book once I got past the male gaze bits in the beginning. I like the time loop. I like some of the twists at the end that I'd forgotten about. I think it's quite well written and manages to get its point across in the short time that it is. Although maybe the movie did a better job of like really giving you that time loop feel. I feel like in some ways I didn't get that time loop feel from this book. Like, it didn't feel that repetitive, which is like a good and a bad thing. I keep getting a million notifications, which is annoying when you're filming on your phone. Oh my goodness, stop it. Anyway, I don't think I've got much else to update you on. I did read a little bit more of Migration yesterday, but really just they're now kind of doing this tournament thing where they've been training at the school, and now they're like in their intuitive and combatant pairs, they're pairing up with another pair and having like these battles, and it's like a big tournament. I will admit, I thought it was kind of setting up a particular scenario, and so it surprised me when it didn't do that. So always glad when a book like that can surprise me, because often YA dystopians, like if you've read enough of them, can't do that. But I think this one might surprise me. We'll see. I will read some more of that hopefully this afternoon when I get home from my run. Hello, so I am now halfway through Migration, and something just happened where like I can feel there's going to be a big shift from here, like something exciting, intense just happened that I think is going to take us away from that school environment. I will also say, since I last updated you, our main character was going through like quite an emotional time. Like, she was really struggling with a lot, and it was making me cry. Like, people doing their best and not being able to because of things outside of their control, and like not asking for help even though help is there. Like, that kind of situation at times is a real tearjerker for me. So this had me crying quite a bit. Well, not crying, but like, you know, I had tears. And I think maybe it's been a little while since I cried when I read a book. That's not true. I was crying the other night in bed. I remember, because I thought if Jace wakes up, he's going to think, why are you crying? But I can't remember what book that was. Anyway, this one did make me cry a little bit. So even though I would kind of say the writing style in a lot of ways is quite high level, it's just telling you a lot of things rather than showing them, although it kind of drops in and out of like high level telling you things and then into scenes where you're experiencing things with the character, which is generally what I prefer, that like being with the character. And usually I think that's better for like drawing me in emotionally. But even though this is still doing a lot of the high level telling, it's really just because it's got so much that it's trying to cover. So it's still managing to pull me in emotionally. So I'm having a good time with this, and I will, I mean, it's already Monday. I meant to finish this off by the end of the week. So I'm kind of behind, but I do find I'm getting through this quickly. So if I can just find some time, it probably won't actually take me that long to get through this. I'm just also behind on booktube videos and other life stuff. So we'll see whether I have time or not. The other thing that I did finish off is my audiobook. So I finished listening to horror stories. I'm trying to remember whether any of the stories in the last part of the book were good ones. There was a tiny bit about her performing and it not going well, and I found that quite interesting. One thing I will say is a lot of time in these memoirs, I pick up memoirs of musicians that I like their music, and it's not about the music, and that always ends up disappointing me because that's the part of their lives that I'm the most interested in. Anyway, the summary is I can tell Liz Phair is not the kind of person I would get along with in real life. Which is kind of disappointing because in a lot of ways, like, I got into her in my late teens, early 20s. She was probably one of the influences I had around me towards a more feminist way of thinking. So it's kind of frustrating to then discover that she's probably not someone I would get along with. But oh well, I guess. Anyway, since I finished that off, I did start my next audiobook, which is going to be Heir of Novron, which is the third and final book in the Heir Revelations. Is that what the trilogy is called. It's a trilogy, but it's actually 6 books where each pair of books is bound up as one. So it was released as 3 books, but it's kind of 6 books. So really, I've just started book 5. Does that make sense? Not really. Anyway, mainly we're following Royce and Hadrian, who are these thieves, and usually their thieving things go wrong. But we're also following this princess, and there's kind of been this big scheme to find the lost heir and put them in charge of this empire, but really it's other people who are wanting to take charge of the empire. So there's like a big political conspiracy going on, as well as like a magical element to that we're still really learning about. I particularly like the tone of the writing. It's written in kind of like a light-hearted, dark humor kind of way, like adventurous and fun, but also a lot of things are going wrong, and it's kind of got some darker elements. So, I mean, I've only just started it. I barely read anything. I'm still on chapter 1. So I will probably go for, either it's going to rain tomorrow and I'm going to continue this, or it'll be good enough for me to go for a run and I'll continue this. One of those.
Lazy Sunday mornings hiding under covers. I don't mind.
Okay, so it has been several days because I was dying of being a girl again. I don't know why lately that seems to be like more deathly than normal. But anyway, since I wasn't doing anything else but lying around for the last couple of days, I did manage to finish off Migration. So I have mixed feelings. I really enjoyed this. Like, I think there was so much creativity and so many great ideas, and it did emotionally pull me in, and like I was so engaged the whole time I was reading it. But there were also so many cool things that were introduced and then not much was done with them. And so I feel like a lot of the time when I read these standalones where I wanted more from them, or I felt like there could have been more done with them, I always end up like rewriting it as a trilogy in my head. So I feel like this should have been a trilogy. Maybe each of the books could have been 300 pages. The first book could have been the school stuff. She had some really cool ideas about how this like intuitive combatant combo worked, and they were doing all these like very different like physical competitions. And it would have been good in that first book then to get to know a lot of the different characters more, so that then later what happens to them would have more impact. Then the second book should have been like the attack that happens, and we could have learned a lot more perhaps about the temple and the religion of this world that's based on these original people from the prologue. That would have been cool. And it also would have given more time for our main character to kind of explore her intuitive powers. Actually, I've already named these trilogy books in my head as well, even though they don't exist. So the first one would have been called Intuitive. The second book totally would have been called Warriors of Time. And then the final book probably would be Migration, because the final book should be about kind of the final resolution. And I feel like if we'd had a bit more time to explore what was really happening there and the decision that was being made, and maybe like a little bit more thought around the people that were involved, because it all felt very rushed at the end. Like, what I'm talking about being the last book in the trilogy was like 4 chapters in the book, and these chapters are pretty short. So I think this was really good and I loved it, but also I think it had the potential to be amazing and it wasn't quite there. So it makes me sad at the same time. I will also say I have one other problem with this, is that this is a YA book, kind of even maybe a younger YA book as it stands. And there's one part where like it's a military war type situation, right? So they kill someone. However, it wasn't really properly justified. It's kind of like they're a bit of a dick, so we killed them. And I think it was really there to like show how their powers worked, although that was frustrating because then it didn't really matter in the end. But I just feel like in YA books, you need to be very clear if your characters are doing things and they're not completely morally sound, then that's not really a good lesson. Like, I'm a lot harsher for YA books about this than adult books. Adult books, I feel like we can make our own decisions about whether that was moral or not. But this, I just don't think it was justified. But still, I thought this was a really great read. I really loved it. it could have been amazing, but instead it was just really great. So I shouldn't criticize it too much. Anyway, since it's been a couple of days and all I've done is read this and lie around in bed, I don't remember where I was at with this vlog, but I guess now I'm at the end. Oh, I was reading Heir of Novron, but I'm going to continue this in the next vlog. And I think the other thing I read was All You Need Is Kill. Anyway, you just watched it. It was much less time ago for you than it was for me. So let me know if you've read any of the books that I talked about in this video, as I would love to chat with you about them down in the comments. Or let me know if there's been anything you've been reading lately that's been really great. Do subscribe if you'd like to see more of my bookish videos. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you are doing well, and I will see you next time.